What if everything you ever dreamed of, money, success, respect, couldn't fill the silence that waited for you at night? What if the one thing you couldn't buy was the warmth of someone who stayed? This is the story of a man who had the world at his feet, yet found himself alone on the night the world celebrates togetherness. And how one simple question, can you stay for just one night, changed everything. The snow was falling softly against the tall glass windows of a penthouse that overlooked half the city. Inside, warm yellow lights illuminated polished marble floors, expensive art, and a grand Christmas tree that seemed too big for one person. Ethan Cole, CEO of a multi-billion-dollar company, stood by the window with a glass of untouched wine. The city below sparkled with joy, families laughing, couples holding hands, children throwing snowballs. But inside his walls, silence ruled. He had built an empire before he turned 35. Luxury cars, private jets, awards, the kind of life people envied on magazine covers. Yet, when his reflection met his eyes in the window, it didn't look like a winner, it looked tired, lonely, and lost. He hadn't spoken to his parents in years, his younger brother had stopped calling, and the woman he once loved had left after saying, "You're married to your work, not me." Ethan sighed and turned back to his laptop, drowning himself in emails, contracts, and numbers, anything to avoid the emptiness. But tonight, even the numbers felt cold. He had ordered food for one, wine for one, and even the Christmas playlist in the background felt out of place. Just then, the doorbell rang. He frowned. No one ever visited him, especially not on Christmas Eve. When he opened the door, a young woman stood there, wrapped in a worn-out red scarf, holding a small food delivery bag. Her cheeks were pink from the cold, her hair dusted with snowflakes. "Delivery for Mr. Cole," she said softly. He nodded, signing the receipt. But as she turned to leave, he noticed her trembling hands. "Wait," he said, "you're freezing. Come in for a minute." She hesitated. "It's okay, sir, I have more deliveries, just 1 minute," he insisted. "Warm up a little." She stepped inside, her eyes widening at the sight of his lavish apartment. "Wow," she whispered. "It's beautiful." Ethan smiled faintly. "Beautiful but empty." She looked at him curiously. "Empty?" He gestured around. "There's no one to share it with. What good is all this if you're spending Christmas alone?" She looked down at her worn shoes. "I get that. I'm spending it alone too." That caught him off guard. "You don't have family?" "I do," she said with a small, sad laugh. "But they're far away, and I couldn't afford the ticket this year. So I'm just working." For a moment, they stood in silence. Two strangers from completely different worlds, yet the loneliness between them felt the same. Then she smiled gently and said the words that would change his night forever. "Can I stay for just one night? I mean, not as a guest, just as company. We can share food, talk, watch something festive. No one should be alone on Christmas." Ethan didn't know why, but he said yes. They sat on the couch, eating simple takeout from paper boxes, laughing over old Christmas movies. She told him her name was Lila, that she worked 2 jobs to save for nursing school, that she believed kindness could change lives. He told her about his company, his achievements, and, reluctantly, his regrets. She listened without judgment. "Maybe you don't need to keep chasing more," she said softly. "Maybe what you really need is to stop running from yourself." Her words struck something deep inside him. For years, he had built his empire to prove he was worthy of love, respect, success. But in that quiet moment, sitting next to a girl who had nothing but warmth in her heart, he realized how poor he truly was. When midnight came, they stood by the window, watching fireworks light up the sky. Lila whispered, "Merry Christmas, Ethan." And for the first time in years, he smiled, a real, unforced smile. "Merry Christmas, Lila." The next morning, the snow had stopped. The city was quiet again. Ethan woke up early and found Lila still asleep on the couch, a blanket around her shoulders. She looked peaceful. He brewed coffee and stood watching her, feeling something unfamiliar, peace, maybe even hope. When she woke, she smiled sleepily. "Thanks for letting me stay." "Thank you for staying," he said. Before she left, she hesitated at the door. "You'll be okay, right?" He nodded, but when she disappeared into the cold morning, the apartment felt emptier than ever. For days afterward, he couldn't stop thinking about her words. "Stop running from yourself." He realized he didn't just need her company, he needed change. So he started making calls. He reached out to his brother. Donated to charities. Set up scholarships for working students like Lila. For the first time, his money was building something meaningful. Weeks passed, but he didn't see her again. Until one snowy evening in January, as he left the hospital after sponsoring a new healthcare wing, he heard a familiar voice behind him. "Ethan?" He turned, and there she was, wearing a nurse's uniform, smiling shyly. "You did all this?" He nodded. "You inspired me." She blinked back tears. "You remembered?" "How could I forget the night someone taught me what wealth really means," he said. The city lights shimmered around them, the snow falling softly once again. He smiled at her and said, "So, can you stay for another night?" She laughed, eyes sparkling. "Maybe more than one." And as they walked down the snowy street together, the lonely CEO who once had everything finally found the one thing he'd been missing all along: love that couldn't be bought, only shared. Moral: you can have the world in your hands and still feel empty, until someone shows you that the real wealth in life isn't what you own, but who stays when you have nothing left to offer but your heart.